Hello students, welcome to my class. So in this video, I will be continuing with Unit 2 of Organic Synthetic Methods, under which we will start studying with the preparation of cubane. So this is a very important question. Cubane synthesis. Cubane formula is C8H8 and the structure of cubane is this. It is like a cubic structure. So it's called cubane. Now, how do you synthesize the C8H8 that is cubane? First of all, it's very important. It's used in the preparation of some of the explosives. So, the step number one in synthesis of cubane is you're taking two molecules of 2-bromocyclopentane pentadienone. Okay, that is a ketonic compound. So you can see there's a C double bond O group here, and at the second carbon there is a bromine. So it is 2-bromocyclopentadienone. So you're taking two molecules of that 2-bromocyclopentadienone. This is the same. I've written it horizontally. So here you're shifting this pi bond towards the carbon, this carbon. So this carbon will get a minus charge and this carbon will get a plus charge. Same way here, you're shifting this pi bond here. So this carbon will get a negative charge and this carbon here will get a plus charge. And in order to neutralize that charge, this another pi bond shift will take place. So there won't be any charge over this carbon, whereas this carbon will have a plus charge now because it will be left with only 1, 2 and 3 bonds because this bond is shifting here. Okay. So once you've done that, once you've shifted the bonds, now this positively charged carbon center will attack the negatively charged carbon center. Same way here, the negatively charged carbon center will attack the positively charged carbon center. So that is called as 4 plus 2 pi addition. Okay, or it is called as a cycloaddition reaction. So what do you get by the end? What you have to do is you just have to draw a bond here and connecting these two carbon centers here and here. Okay, so you get an adduct, which is a product by the end of step number 1. Moving on to step number 2, what you're doing, you're taking the adduct that you've got by the end of step number 1. Now here it undergoes 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. There it was 4 plus 2. Here it is 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. It's the same thing here. You can see one more pi bond is there. That will shift onto one carbon, giving that carbon a minus charge and the neighboring carbon will get a plus charge. Same way here also you can see the pi bonds, correct? Wherever you see the pi bonds, it's possible to shift it. So once again, you're shifting this pi bond to this carbon. So it will get a minus charge and the carbon over here will get a plus charge. Okay. So now the carbon here has a plus charge and here the carbon has negative charge. So there is a possibility of bond formation here, and same way here there's a minus charge and there's a plus charge. So I've shown it as dotted lines in pencil. So there is a possibility of bond formation here as well. Correct. So now what you'll do in the next step, just complete form that bond and write. So this structure what we get is kind of cubic, correct? So this is by the end of step number 2. So in the next step, that is step number 3, what we're doing is that we are protecting one of the keto groups. Okay, so we want only one ketone group to undergo a reaction. So what we're doing to the other keto group is that we are protecting it. Now in organic chemistry, I'm sure you have come across this term called as protecting groups. Okay, what are protecting group? So if you have a functional group, say in this case it is a keto group, and you do not want it to undergo organic reaction, but when you're doing certain reaction, obviously some functional groups will react, correct? But you don't want this to react under that condition. You want only one of the functional groups to react and you want other one to remain inert. Okay, so what you do is that you make it react with the protecting group first. So what will the protecting group do is that after reacting it will form like an inert a cyclic intermediate sort of thing, where which is inert. So now if you carry out the reaction, this part will not undergo any reaction because it's protected by the protecting group. That is what a protecting group will do. So only this ketone group, which is not protected at all, will undergo the reaction. So once that reaction is done, you can deprotect this group and bring it back to the keto form. That's what is the work of a protecting group. So now here we have two keto groups, but we want the reaction to be carried out the next, that is the step number 4, that reaction to be carried out to only one of the keto groups. So what you will do in the previous step is that you will protect any one of the groups. So here we are protecting this one more keto group. So keto groups, they are selectively protected, and for different functional group, you will use a different types of protective group agents, like protecting agents. Like here, if you want to protect, this topic will come further in unit 3, where we'll be studying that what type of functional group, what type of protecting group should we use. Okay, so here you understand here, because we are supposed to protect a keto group, we are using ethylene glycol here. So it will form a structure like this that will protect this keto group. Okay, so I'm treating this keto group with ethylene glycol. So there's elimination of water and we get this structure. So this part is protected, and in step number 4, whatever reaction we do, this part will remain inert, and then by the end of that reaction we can deprotect the group. Next step, that is step number 4, is Favorsky rearrangement. Now here I've shown you what actually happens in Favorsky rearrangement, but this part that's written in pencil, you don't have to write it in exam. You just have to write what happens to your cubene, because you're synthesizing cubene. Here I've just shown an example what exactly is Favorsky rearrangement and how it takes place. So here, can you see what is happening? Here a 6-membered ring is finally converted into a 5-membered ring. Okay, that is what we are doing in Favorsky rearrangement. So how does it happen here is that, see here, I'm taking a 6-membered ring, and here you know that there are 2 hydrogens here, correct? So one of the hydrogens will leave as H plus. So this carbon will get what charge? Will get a minus charge on itself, because one of the hydrogen has gone out as H plus. Okay, and next, the bromine here, you can see here, there's a bromine that is attached here. This bromine will leave as Br minus. So that bromine will leave as Br minus. Okay, so here this carbon will get a plus charge. So this carbon here has a minus charge because H has gone out as H plus. This carbon will get a minus charge because Br has gone as Br minus. Correct, sorry, this carbon will get a plus charge because Br is going out as Br minus. So this carbon with a negative charge will form a bond with this carbon with a positive charge. So there's a bond formation here. Can you see this? So there's a bond formation here. What is the next step? You want to break, because it's still a 6-membered ring, correct? So you want to break this bond over here, which I'm pointing out. That bond is supposed to be broken in order to make it a 5-membered ring. So now how to break that bond? What happens next is that you can see that there is a C double bond O here, carbonyl group. So oxygen being electronegative, it will pull the electrons from this pi bond. So there will be a minus charge on this oxygen and positive charge on this carbon, because the pi bond shifts onto oxygen. Next, we are doing hydrolysis. That's there water gets dissociated as H plus and OH minus. So in this hydrolysis step, you can see that we have OH minus here, and there's a carbon here with a positive charge. So this OH minus will go and attack onto this carbon, forming a bond there, OH. Okay, and in the next step, this pi bond that's got shifted here onto oxygen as a minus charge gets shifted back between this carbon and oxygen. Now here you see, students, if this bond comes back and there's a bond formation, that is, there is a double bond between this carbon and oxygen, the valency of this carbon will be disturbed. How? It will get 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 bonds in total, but the maximum valency of carbon is 4, correct? So in case this bond shifts here back, one of these 3 bonds should break, correct? So what will happen? This bond is, that will get shifted on to this carbon as a minus charge, and so that bond will break. So here this carbon now has a minus charge, and in the reaction medium there is still one H plus that is present from the previous step. After dissociation of water, OH got attached, but here one H plus is there. That H plus will come and attach over here to the carbon having the minus charge. So here what we get? We get one H attached here. So there won't be any charge on this carbon atom. So we are not representing the H, but we know that there are two H plus attached over here. Same way here, here and here. And what is there on the top? C double bond O, OH. Correct. So this is Favorsky rearrangement where we are converting a six-membered ring to a five-membered ring. So once again, what are we doing here? Firstly, there's removal of hydrogen from one of the carbons. So that carbon will get a negative charge because hydrogen goes out as H plus. And from the opposite direction, bromine goes out as Br minus. So this carbon will get a plus charge. Next, there's a formation of the bond here. Now we want this to be a five-membered ring. So what we'll do, this carbonyl group is there in the top. We will shift this bond onto oxygen. So oxygen will get a minus charge and this carbon will get a plus charge. Next, there is hydrolysis step where water will dissociate to give H plus and OH minus. The OH minus part will come and attack onto this carbon having the plus charge. So we get OH. And what will happen in the next step? This carbonyl group, pi bond of the carbonyl group that has migrated onto oxygen and is present on oxygen as minus will once again shift back. So what we'll get? We'll get C double bond O. But in order to retain this carbon's valency to 5, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, not to retain its valency to 4, not 5, because carbon's maximum valency is 4. Here you see that carbon's valency is disturbed, correct? So in order to retain that, we are breaking this bond and this bond shifts on to this carbon as minus charge, and in order to remove that minus charge from that carbon, one H plus will come and attach over there. So we get a five-membered ring. Next, what you do, now you know what is Favorsky rearrangement. So to this intermediate that you've got, we'll come back to the synthesis of cubane. In step number 3, we have protected one of the keto groups, correct? So to this intermediate, what we are doing? We are doing Favorsky rearrangement, and during the rearrangement, what will happen? This five-membered ring, 1 2 3 4 5 5-membered ring will get converted into four-membered ring. It is a, if it is a six-membered ring, it will become five-membered ring. Same way, if it is a five-membered ring, it will become a four-membered ring. So here you can see that this is a five-membered ring. It will get converted into four-membered ring. Now students, why is it not reacting to this part, this side part, even though here ketone group is there? Why is Favorsky rearrangement not happening to this part? Reason is, in step number 3, we protected this keto group from reacting in the next step. That is the importance of using a protecting group. That is the reason why we did that protecting group step in step number 3, because we wanted the reaction to take place only to one part and only to one ketone functional group, okay, not both. If I had not protected this and if it was present in the form of keto group only same way, then what would happen? There would be Favorsky rearrangement taking place in two sides, this side as well as this side. Because I wanted it to happen to only one of the keto groups, I protected the other part. That is, now you understand, right, what is the importance of using a protecting group and why we had to do it. So now this five-membered ring you can see here has got converted into four-membered ring. Simultaneously, the double bond O, by the end of the reaction, you know, right, the C double bond O gets converted into C double bond O OH, correct? So directly you can write it C double bond O OH. The mechanism how this gets converted into this is shown on the top using another example. So you can directly write, because you know Favorsky rearrangement, how it goes on. And this bromine is lost by the end, correct? This bromine will be gone because it will be gone in the second step itself. So there won't be a bromine. Now you can see that this kind of looks like a cubane. We have still few more things to do, but it almost looks like a cubane. And after Favosky rearrangement, in the same step, we are treating it with SOCl2. This is done in order to replace this OH group with chlorine. Okay. So what will happen if you treat with SOCl2? This OH group will be replaced by the chlorine. So you will get an intermediate like this, wherein the C double bond OH got replaced with C double bond Cl. So what are we doing in the next step? So in the next step, what we're doing here is that once you've treated with SOCl2, here we get a chlorine group. Instead of OH, the chlorine will come and replace. Next, we are treating it with CH3 thrice COOH, which is nothing but butanoic acid, correct? CH3 three times COOH. Now here there is elimination of HCl. One chlorine from here and one H from here will go out as HCl. What you will do, the rest of the part that is there, that is OOC CH3 thrice, you will directly attach it to this carbon. Okay, so I have attached it and written that is C double bond O, which was already there, and then just attach this entire part over here, that is OOC CH3 whole thing thrice. Okay, so you have attached it and written. Next, what happens in the next step is, now in the next step here, there is homolytic cleavage that is taking place. So here there is cleavage at two sides here. See carefully, students. Here one cleavage will take place. That is here carbon here will get a dot, that is one electrons from this bond, and this carbon will get one electron from this bond, and this oxygen here same way comes out as free radical. This will get one electron, and this oxygen here will get one electron. So there are two sides where cleavage will take place. One is this bond and one more is this bond. Now this whole molecule will go out as carbon dioxide, C double bond O, correct. So it will go out as carbon dioxide molecule. And next, in the next step, what you're doing is you're treating, when does this happen? This happens when you treat it with the cumene, that is isopropyl benzene. This is cumene. So whenever you treat it with cumene, what happens in cumene molecule also, there's a cleavage here, you can see. So this will be, carbon will get one electron, hydrogen will get one electron. Same way here, there's cleavage between two oxygens, correct. So this one oxygen will get one electron, and this whole thing, that is CH3 thrice CO dot, will come out as the one radical, correct. So that radical will come and attach onto this carbon, giving you the byproduct, that is the cumene ring, where hydrogen has gone out, and this full part which I have circled, that is OCCH3 thrice, will come and attach over to this carbon. To which carbon? To this carbon. So this whole part will come and attach here. So you get this product, plus what is there? There's elimination of carbon dioxide, and this hydrogen is there, no, that goes out from cumene, that will come and attach over here, because this carbon has only 1, 2 and 3 bonds, and one carbon is there here, which is has one electron. Same way, there's a hydrogen which has one electron here, so that will come and form a bond over here. So what do you get? You, one part will become cubane. Now only work is to deprotect this group and to remove this bromine. So what is happening here, students? First you treated with SOCl2. So there was a replacement of the OH group with Cl group. Okay. And then in the next step, what did you do? You treated it with butanoic acid. Yes. So what happened? There was elimination of HCl, one H from the butanoic acid and one Cl from here went out as HCl. So this entire part is getting attached over here to this carbon. And in the next step, when you're treating it with cumene, that is nothing but the isopropyl benzene, what happens? There is homolytic cleavage taking place, one at this side, that is the carbon attached to the cubane ring and the C double bond group here. Here one cleavage will take place, and here you get a free radical and free radical. So here you can see there is C double bond O and O, which will go out as carbon dioxide gas. And once again, there's one more site where cleavage will take place, that is between the two oxygens here, this part. Okay, so here also cleavage will take place, and each of the oxygen will get one electron each. And here once again in the cumene molecule also cleavage will take place, and this oxygen along with this whole part will go and attach over here. This hydrogen will come and attach the cubane ring. So the byproduct, this is all the byproducts that you get, and finally the ring. What is the next step is next step is deprotecting. That is this group that was there, this group which we had protected. Now since all the reactions for this part is completed, so we have to deprotect it and bring it back to ketonic form, correct? So we are doing deprotecting. Here to deprotect we are doing acid hydrolysis, that is in the presence of H plus ion and water we are deprotecting this group. On deprotection what we'll get back the ketone group, we'll get its original form back how it was before, and whatever the protecting group we used in order to protect it also will be obtained back. So we used ethylene glycol, correct? So we'll get that product also as a byproduct. Okay, next what we're doing, we are doing all the same reactions that we did for this part to the other side also. Now we're doing Favosky rearrangement once again. What happens in Favosky rearrangement, the 5-membered ring will get converted into 4-membered ring and we'll get rid of this bromine. So that has happened here. Now in order to remove this group, what are we doing? Same way, we are treating with SOCl2 which will replace this OH, and then we are treating it with butanoic acid which will attach here. And next what happens if you treat with cumene, there will be homolytic cleavage. Finally we will get a cubane molecule. Whatever steps we did in the previous, here all the steps that happened, same thing will happen to the other side also, so you don't have to write it again, it's shown in the previous steps, right? So same things will be done to the other side ketonic group as well, and finally you get a cubane molecule. So the synthesis is actually very very simple, because step number 6 is actually the repetition of step number 4 and 5 once again to the other side. So can we just summarize what and all steps are there? So cubane, that is C8H8, first step is 4 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction, that is we are taking 2 bromocyclopentadiene where we get an adduct formation. And in the next step once again what is happening, that our adduct will undergo 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. So you get two sides which look similar, correct? This side also looks same, this side also looks same. Now you will deal with one side at a time. So in order to do that, what we're doing, we have to protect another side. When we are dealing with one side at a time, we have to protect another side so that it will not undergo any reaction. So we are using a protecting group here because we have ketone functional group. So a protecting group like ethylene glycol is used, okay, so that it does not undergo any reaction. So that because of the protecting group, that side will remain inert, and the other side will undergo all the reactions. Okay, so first is Favosky rearrangement, which is done in order to reduce the cyclic number of carbons in the cyclic ring. So the ring will get shortened, correct? So six membered ring will become 5, and 5-membered ring will become 4. 4-membered ring will become 3. So after that, we are treating it with SOCl2, then butanoic acid, then we are treating it finally with cumene, which will lead to elimination of carbon dioxide byproduct, and finally one side will look like cubane. Then the same set of reactions done to the other side. First, what you have to do, one thing is you have to deprotect. Since you have protected it first, deprotecting step has to be done, and then all the other reactions are done same way as that of the previous one. So this is the synthesis of cubane molecule. Next is another important synthesis, that is synthesis of biotin, which is also called as vitamin H. So this is structure of biotin. We are supposed to synthesize biotin. Step number 1 in the synthesis of biotin is we are taking pelamic acid. Pelamic acid is nothing but it has 5 CH2 groups. And on the both the sides it will have COH groups attached on both the sides of the chain. Okay, 5 CH2 groups, and both ends of the chain will have COH groups. So this is treated with what is this MEOH? What does Me stand here for? Methyl group, that is CH3. So it's nothing but CH3OH, which is methanol in the presence of HCl. So what do we get? Both the H here on both ends of COH groups. Here the H will get replaced by the methyl group. So we will get COMe and COM. That is one part of step number one. Next, what you're doing is you're adding bromine to it, Br2. So what happens out of these five CH2 groups, the bromine will come and attach to the fifth CH2 group. So last but one CH2 group. So here to this, one of the bromine will attach. So how will you write it? You can open the chain and write, but instead of writing that lengthy chain, you can just write it as CH2 four times. One more CH2 group is over here, and to that one bromine will come and attach. Okay. So how many bonds does that carbon have here? Which carbon? How many bonds does this carbon have here? Initially it was CH2, correct. One of the hydrogen will be replaced by one of the bromine, and that hydrogen will go out as HBr because there is Br2, and one of the bromine will attach in the place of that hydrogen. So this carbon will have 1, 2, 3, and one hydrogen here. So it was CH2. Now it is CHBr. One hydrogen will go out with one bromine as HBr. So you don't have to show that, but just for your reference, I told there is removal of HBr, and there is this one more Br will attach over here to this carbon. So now here the chain is CH2 four times. Here one CH is there, COMe, COM. Next, what you're doing is you're treating it with sodium hydrosulfide. Okay, so this is your sodium hydrosulfide. When you're treating it with sodium hydrosulfide, what happens here? This bromium will get replaced by hydrosulfide group. Okay, so the SH group will replace the bromine here. Okay, and step number two is addition reaction, where you're treating this previous product that you got from step number one with methyl methacrylate. So you need to know to draw the structure of methyl methacrylate. So when you're treating it with the methyl methacrylate, you get an addition product. So what you're doing is this part, everything else remains as such, only this hydrogen is replaced here. Rest everything you will write it as such. See, this whole part is written on the other side, everything as such. Only the hydrogen here, this hydrogen has been replaced, and you get an additional product, that is it has been replaced by CH2 CH2 COO group. Okay, on treatment with methyl methacrylate, I add that to the sulfur, and right, and the hydrogen here has been replaced by this particular group. That is step number 2. Step number 3 is Dickmann cyclization. So Dickmann cyclization reaction you might have studied previously also. Here we are using sodium methoxide. Okay, in Dickmann cyclization reaction, and there's cyclization, that is cyclic ring formation takes place in Dickmann cyclization reaction. So sulfur will become a part of that ring here. You can see this whole part will undergo cyclization, the top part, and the bottom part you can write it as such, that is CH4COMe. This part will remain as such, we're writing it as such, and this bottom line entire thing the bottom chain will undergo cyclization in the presence of sodium methoxide, and you're writing the product here. See, there is a double bond, C double bond O, that's nothing but this group, C double bond O, and there is a CO, this is COMe is present over here, one more CO double bond O is present over here, and there is a cyclization. Here Me is nothing but your methyl group, correct? So cyclization takes place, one of the C double bond O is written here, one of the COMe group is written over here. That is step number 3, Dickmann cyclization reaction. So on Dickmann cyclization, you can see here this part has formed a ring now. One of the group, that is COO group, gets converted into C double bond O group here, and this folds to forming a ring here. What happens in the next step? Step number 4 is first you are treating it with hydrogen cyanide, that is HCl. On treating with hydrogen cyanide, this double bond O group gets converted to OH and Cn. Okay. After that, what you're doing, there is elimination of water from this step. So this OH will be removed and one H will go from here. So because this OH is leaving from here and one H will leave from here, there is double bond formation here taking place between these two carbon atoms, because its valency will be otherwise only 3. Okay, so in order to maintain the valency as 4, what will happen? There will be double bond formation between these two carbon atoms, because one OH will go from here, one hydrogen will go from this side. Okay, so on elimination of water, there is one double bond formation, and next what you're doing is you're doing reduction, that is you're adding hydrogen. So one hydrogen will get added here, one hydrogen will get added to this carbon, so that double bond will go off. That is nothing but reduction. And what is the next step? You're doing hydrolysis. In hydrolysis, what happens? This group, that is Cn, cyanide group, will get replaced by COOH, and here the methyl group is replaced by hydrogen, and this methyl group will remain as such. So don't go to make any changes here. Only in the top side of the ring, here the cyanide group will be replaced by carboxylic acid functional group, and here the methyl group will be replaced by one hydrogen. So what is happening? There are multiple steps taking place in step number 4. One is you're treating with hydrogen cyanide, which will lead to C double bond or conversion into COH and CCN. Okay, and then what you're doing, you're eliminating water. So one OH will go from here, one hydrogen will go from here. So there is a double bond formation between these two carbon atoms. Now in order to remove that double bond, what you will do, you will add hydrogen. That is nothing but reduction, so that double bond will go off. And here, although we don't write hydrogen here, it is understood that both the sides one hydrogen is present. Okay, then what you're doing, you're doing hydrolysis, wherein the cyanide group is replaced by COOH group, and this methyl group will get converted to H. That is step number 4. Next, step number 5. Next step is step number 5, that is we are treating cutaneous rearrangement, where we are treating it with SOCl2 and NaN3. So first step is treat it with SOCl2. When you are treating with SOCl2, what happens? Both the sides, the OH group will get replaced by chlorine. So here you can see one OH group here has been replaced by chlorine, and even on the other side this OH group has been replaced by chlorine. And what you'll do after that is you have to treat with NaN3. What happens here is that the chlorine is replaced by nitrogen atom on both the sides. So you have N double bond C double bond O. Same way here also you have N double bond C double bond O. That is step number 5. This group here on treatment with water, what do we get? The C double bond O C double bond O part will get replaced by hydrogen atoms here. Two hydrogens get added on either of the sides. So we get NH2 and NH2 on both the sides. In step number 6, what we're doing, that product that we've got, we're reacting it with COCl2. So what do we get first? Two of the hydrogen from both the sides, one hydrogen will go out, and there is a formation of an adduct or a cyclic structure here. You can see that is C double bond O. From here the CO part will come and attach over here, and one hydrogen is lost in each of the step. And in the next step, what happens, we are doing hydrolysis here. So that hydrolysis is done in order to convert this methyl group Me to H. Okay, so we get COOH and CH2 4 times COH. So this is our final product, which is nothing but your biotin molecule. Okay, so this is how it looks. Correct, no? So this is the synthesis of biotin. Just to summarize, what did we do? We took palmic acid. Then there is the conversion of this H group to methyl group. Then there is addition of bromine, and then we also added sodium hydrogen sulfide. And then there was addition reaction where we got an addition product. Then we did a cyclization reaction in order to get a cyclic structure and made it react with hydrogen cyanide, water elimination, reduction, hydrolysis, etc. And then we did Curtis rearrangement where we took SOCl2 and NaN3 and ended up with this product, which on hydrolysis the C double bond or group on either side got replaced by hydrogen atoms. Okay, that step is not mentioned, but you can write it. And then in step number 6 we are making it react with COCl2, which on hydrolysis will finally give you a biotin molecule. That is the synthesis of biotin, which is important. So here, make it a point to add an additional step, that is water hydrolysis, but that is not mentioned here. When you're doing hydrolysis with two molecules of water, what happens here? The hydrogen gets attached to the nitrogen, whereas the oxygen will get attached to the C double bond O and it will go out as carbon dioxide. So two molecules of carbon dioxide are eliminated from here, and the hydrogen, that is H2, gets added to either side. That's why you get NH2 and NH2 here. So make it a point to add that step here, students. Next, we are studying the next synthesis, that is Arndt-Einstedt reaction. So here what happens, we are converting acid into higher homologue or some derivative of that homologue. So acid is converted into either amide or ester. So here you can see the reaction, that is reaction of Arndt-Ester synthesis. So here you can see we are starting off with a simple acid like CH3COH. Then there are two different treatment. One is with SOCl2 that will replace the H here and give you RCOCl, and then we are treating it with CH2N2 that will give you RCOCHN2. Till there the step is same. After that, depending upon what different reagents you use, you get different types of products. Like if you are doing hydrolysis in the presence of Ag2O, you get a higher acid, or if you're taking alcohol and Ag2O, then you will get an ester, or you're taking ammonia and Ag2O, then you will get an amide product. So this is nothing but your Arndt-Einstedt reaction. Next, we are studying how does this reaction proceed, the reaction mechanism. So the mechanism of this reaction, how does it proceed? First, what you're taking, you're supposed to take an carboxylic acid. Okay, the simple carboxylic acid like RC double bond OH, and then you're making it react with SOCl2. On treatment with SOCl2, what happens, students? The OH group here will be replaced by the chlorine atom. So here you can see RC double bond to Cl, and the OH group has been removed from here. It has been replaced by the chlorine. Then you are treating it with CH2N2. On treatment with CH2N2, what happens? This chlorine is replaced by CH2N2 group. So here you can see CH2N2 group gets attached here, replacing the chlorine. Then what you're doing, you're treating it with one more molecule of CH2N2. Now what happens, this one more molecule of CH2N2 abstracts a proton or hydrogen from here. So it takes up one H from here. So this carbon here will get a negative charge because H goes out as H plus. So you'll get CH3N2 and you get a diazo ketone on the reaction. Next is this your diazoketone that you've got here on treatment with Ag2O. What does it give? It gives a carbene. Carbenes are structures, radicals that have carbon with valence electron on them. Okay, an unshared valence electron pair will be there. And since on reaction with Ag2O, this N2 gets replaced by double bond O here. So hence it is called as a ketene. So by the end of this reaction, we have got ketene here after treating with Ag2O. This we had got, and then on treating with Ag2O, we have got ketene. And from here there are three possible ways in which the reaction can proceed. That is ketene on the treatment with different substrate will lead to different product. So what is that? First, if you treat it with water, what will it give? It will give you a higher carboxylic acid. Meanwhile, if you treat it with an alcohol, what will you get? You will get an ester, or if you treat it with ammonia, you will get an amide. So till here, the reaction mechanism is same. And after this step of forming diazoketone, in the presence of Ag2O, it will get converted into a ketene. Okay, and from there, it depends upon what type of reagent you will use. You will get different product, like it is shown over here. Okay, three different products. So what we have done, we have converted acid into a higher derivative of the acid, or like an amide or an ester, or acid having additional chain, that is additional CH2 in it. So that is an Einstein reaction. Next reaction is Retro-Diels-Alder reaction. Now, students, previously in ring forming reactions, we studied about Diels-Alder reaction, wherein it is the formation of diene and dienophile from cyclohexene. Correct. So, it was an example of ring formation reaction. If you remember, in the previous videos, we discussed about Diels-Alder reaction. What is retro-Diels-Alder reaction? It is a reverse of the Diels-Alder reaction. So since Diels-Alder reaction is ring forming reaction, retro-Diels-Alder reaction is a ring breaking or ring cleavage reaction. That is nothing but the reverse of Diels-Alder reaction. So it is a reverse, and then it can be accomplished how? With spontaneous heat or with acid or base mediation. And the cleavage, what is a product of Diels-Alder reaction, students? You get a cyclohexene, correct? Since this is a reverse, here we are taking a cyclohexene and it will give you butadiene and ethylene. So how is the reaction represented? If you go this way, you will get a Diels-Alder reaction. If you come in the reverse order, you will get retro-Diels-Alder reaction. So you're taking a cyclohexene and you're getting what? You're getting a butadiene and ethylene. Correct. So this is nothing but your retro-Diels-Alder reaction, which is the reverse of the Diels-Alder reaction. Next is 1,3 cycloaddition reaction. So this is an example of ring forming reaction. Previously, retro-Diels-Alder reaction was an example for ring cleavage. Here, this is an example of ring formation reaction. So it is a 1,3 dipolar cycloaddition. It is also called as the dipolar 1,3 dipolar cycloaddition reaction, where you're taking two organic compound. One is a dipolariphile, like this one here, and one more is an ylide. An ylide is one which has charge distribution on three different atoms. So here you can see, because of this pi bond shifting here between these three atoms, this A here will get a positive charge, and this electrons of the pi bond shifted on B is further pulled by C. So C here will be electron rich, A will be electron deficient. So one will have a plus sign, one will have a negative sign. So it's nothing but a dipole or an ylide. Okay, and these two, the dipolariphile and the ylide, they combine to give a 5-membered heterocycle, that is nothing but 1,3 cycloaddition reaction. So it's a key step in the synthesis of many natural products in the pharmaceutical industries, and different variants of this reaction have also come using chiral auxiliaries or chiral catalysts. These are all new to the researching field, and this field is growing. Next, what is this 1,3 dipole or ylide that we're speaking about? I told you this is the ylide that we're talking about here. So this 1,3 dipole, it is known as an ylide, and it bears a positive and a negative charge that is distributed between three atoms, and it has 4 pi electron. Now you can see here the positive and negative charge is distributed between A, B, C, the three atoms, and it also has 4 pi electron. And this ABC atom, most common type of atoms that are incorporated here can be nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, or sulfur. And they are of two types. This ylides, they are of two types. That is, one is the allylic anion type. It has a bend structure, and one is the allynyl anion type. It has a linear structure. Okay. So the mechanism of this reaction is mostly theoretical explanation. That is how this reaction proceeds. 1,3 dipole cycloaddition reaction. It involves the 4 pi electrons of the dipole or the halide, which is a dipole or the halide here. This one. It involves the 4 pi electron of the dipole or the halide, and it involves the 2 pi electron of the dipolarophile. This is the dipolarophile. The 2 pi electrons of this and the 4 pi electrons of this are involved in this reaction mechanism, and this reaction, it proceeds in a concerned matter. That is all the bonds here, they are formed simultaneously. It's not like different steps here. Simultaneously there is all the bonds forming together, and depending upon the nature of the dipole and dipolar file, there can be two different ways in which this reaction will proceed. That is by LUMO and HOMO. You know what is LUMO and HOMO, right? That is the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital and highest occupied molecular orbital. So it can proceed in different ways. That is by LUMO, which is a dipolarophile, and HOMO will be dipole, or the reverse. That is, LUMO will be dipole and HOMO will be dipolarophile. So two different types of interaction is possible. Here you can see that it leads to a formation of intermediate and then the cyclic product. So this is one example of 1,3 dipolar cycloaddition reaction. That is about 1,3 dipolar cycloaddition reaction. The last important synthesis in this reaction is the synthesis of isvarine, which is a tetracyclic compound. And how do this is the structure of isvarine? How to synthesize isvarine? The step number one is 2 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction, where you have to take an unsaturated ketone and an alene. What do you get? There is a formation of an adduct taking place. In step number two, what you're doing is, first part is you're using a protecting group in order to protect this keto group here, because you want to carry out the reaction over here. So to make sure that this keto group is not affected by that reaction, you're using a protecting group that we've used there. That is a that we had already seen in the previous step. In order to protect a keto group, what do we usually use? We use a ethylene glycol group. So this is an ethylene glycol that we're taking in order to protect this keto group. So you can see that it is being protected here. Okay. And after that, the next step is carrying out the oxidation here. So here on oxidation, you can see that here this H2 group gets converted into a epoxide form of ring having oxygen in it. Then this ring on reduction, so you can see here this part remains inert and does not undergo any reaction because we have protected it using a protecting group. Then next step is reduction. On reduction, this ring opens up once again to give you CH3 and OH. And once again, on further reduction, what happens? This OH goes and there's a opening of this ring as well, and there's formation of double bond O. Next is step number 3. That is, once again, you're taking the product that you got from the previous step, you're taking it and making it undergo reduction. On reduction, you can see here the C double bond group gets converted into COH group, correct? And then what you're doing, there is elimination of water. That is, one OH from here and one H from this carbon atom will leave. So since one bond is breaking from here and one more bond is breaking from here, there's a double bond formation between these two carbon atoms. So you can see that is C double bond C. Double bond formation takes place. Further, when it is made to undergo reduction, what do we get? This double bond reduction as an addition of hydrogen. We are adding one hydrogen each to these two carbon atoms. So this double bond goes off and we get single bond C, single bond C, and there is hydrogen that is not shown here, but it is understood that we have added hydrogen to both of those carbon atoms. Then finally, what we're doing is we are treating it, the product that we got in, by the end of step number 3 is made to treat with the base. which will form a new bond here, which will connect this here, making a bond formation here. So I've just written it here, but there is a bond formation between this carbon and this carbon here on treatment with base, which is written like this. So now this has kind of started looking like isvarine. All we have to do is get rid of this group, correct? So what you will do it first is, because it is in the protected form, first what you will do deprotecting. Okay, so deprotecting is done. The next step is what? A reduction. In order to get rid of this double C double bond O group, what you'll do? You will do reduction, wherein the C double bond O group is replaced by hydrogen atom, that is CH2. Okay, and finally it's treated with the TSCl, and then we get one of the hydrogen here is replaced by TS, and then there is elimination of TSOH, which will finally lead to isvarine molecule. So this is the total synthesis of isvarine molecule. With this synthesis, we have discussed some of the very important synthesis in this particular video, and with this synthesis I'll be ending this video. Thank you for attending my class. Take care and bye.